Let's take a quick look at today's supply and demand forecast from ERCOT. Everyone keeping an eye on the grid around 4, 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. That's when demand could top, according to ERCOT, about 84,000 megawatts. Still, ERCOT says we will have enough supply to keep the lights on and the air conditioning on today. And joining us now to talk more about the grid's performance so far this summer is former ERCOT CEO Brad Jones. Brad, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We had record demand yesterday, likely record demand again today. How would you say the grid is performing now?
Well, the grid is doing great. One of the amazing things that we have right now, Britt, is an incredible amount of demand growth, peak demand growth. And you said it earlier, 84,000 would be another peak demand. We just set a record, I think it was yesterday. I think you mentioned that earlier. So we set a record of 81,000, but we expect to receive 84,000 sometime this summer, maybe even today. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's a 5% increase over last year's peak demand. And last year was a 7 to 8% increase over the year before. Those kind of numbers we haven't seen those since the 50s and 60s. There's no other region across the country that is even close to the type of demand growth that Texas has. It's because we have a great economy, we have a lot of businesses moving here, we have a lot of people moving here. And keeping up with that demand is going to be key for ERCOT.
Okay, and every day I look at the ERCOT dashboard and I see that the supply is kicking up into like 100,000 megawatts. Should I take great comfort in that, or is that an estimate, and could that be fungible on the negative side?
So well, you should take comfort in to start with.
Okay.
But we have to recognize that things change all the time. That's a prediction. It's a prediction of how much wind we're going to get, how much solar we may get. It's also a prediction of our generation fleet, how much of our generation may experience mechanical difficulties over the next 24 hours. So we should take comfort in those numbers, but recognizing that they do change.
Okay. Hey, Brad, let's talk about the legislature. How did lawmakers do this past session? One of their big missions was to achieve reforms to the system. Did they do that?
Well, let me start by saying this. Our market is designed as an energy-only market. Now, what that means, I heard this great analogy one time, Britt, that it's kind of like saying the Houston Astros or the Texas Rangers are only going to pay the players that make it to the field. They're not going to pay anyone in the dugout. And this type of market model is the most economically efficient and has driven great value for Texas over the last 20 years. We're beginning to get into an area where we have to consider a change. We have to consider that change because we've been so fortunate to get the amount of renewables we have in our system. We by far lead the country in wind generation. We are number 2 right now in solar generation and expect to overtake California this year. So we have so much renewables in our state. We're so blessed by that. But the difficulty is that blessing, which brings lower prices for Texas and lower emissions, also means that many of our other generators are those that have an off and on switch, dispatchable generation, find it difficult to stay in this market, find it difficult to make a profit. And so those generators we are going to need from time to time. For example, we know that it gets dark at night in Texas. We know that the wind sometimes doesn't blow in Texas. And when those things happen, we have to have that dispatchable generation.
Okay, but let me stop you right there, Brad. Hold on. We have to have it. A minute ago, you said, let's consider it. Now you're saying we have to have it. How does that get imparted to the lawmakers? This needs to happen.
Yeah, it's something we're still working on. We're working on with a number of folks, including ERCOT and the PUC. The Public Utility Commission this last year put forward something called a performance credit mechanism. And the idea was to begin to wean ourselves away from an energy-only market, to begin to pay some of those folks in the dugout just for being there and being ready and available for us. Now,
and
the
wrap it,
legislature
just
really
a few
didn't
more
grab
seconds.
onto that.
Go ahead, Brad.
the legislature really didn't grab onto that. They really kind of doubled down on the energy-only market. And we need them to see that things have changed and that we need to focus on our future.
Okay, we'll be taking a close look at that the rest of the summer. Fingers crossed, you think we'll be fine. Brad Jones, thank you very much, former CEO of ERCOT. We'll talk to you again soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Britt.
All right, more to come. Stay with us. We'll be right back.